Welcome everyone to our Spring 2021 Flexibility Services webinar. I've just got a few little housekeeping notes as we start off. So please can everyone mute their microphones, and then if you have any questions, please do put them into the chat. We've got a Q&A session at the end, so we'll look to answer all the questions then. And please do keep your videos off as well, because I don't know about you, but I don't think my broadband can cope with it. But the webinar is now being recorded, so it's going to be available on our website in a few days, so that if there's any information that you need to review, you can watch it back there as well, and we'll also send out the slides to you afterwards. So it's a bit of an introduction. So my name is Lois Clark. I'm the DSO commercial lead within Electricity North West. So my role is centred around flexible services really, and contracted capacity. So helping to find innovative alternatives to traditional reinforcement solutions and all that fun stuff within the DSO world. And this is my colleague Kate Stewart, who's our flexible solutions analyst. So she works within my team, assisting with the procurement and visibility of all our flexible services, helping to improve our engagement and break down barriers to participation. So I'm sure we've all received a few emails from Kate recently. So in terms of the structure for today, so we're going to go through a bit of a background to flexible services, just in case anyone is unfamiliar, and then we're going to focus on our current requirements. So that's the main focus of today's session, to give you a full brief about the new set of services that we've recently issued. So that'll also cover how you can participate, such as through our procurement platform Picclo Flex, and touching on flexible power as well, which we'll be utilising for the dispatch of services later in the year, and then a few industry updates before we go on to our Q&A session. So we will have we've got a short little poll which will go into the chat. So Kate, if you want to touch on that quickly.
Yeah, so we are just asking everyone to answer a quick 3 questions. It will just really help us with the rest of the webinar, just to gauge who is attending, and it will help us kind of while we go through the slides, just to understand how much everyone knows about flexible services. So if you wouldn't mind just checking the chat in the next minute and answering those 3 questions, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you. So what we're going to do now is just going to go into a bit of a background about flexibility.
Oh, it's come up on the screen there. So yeah, can everyone see that?
Yeah, I think it's gone into the chat now.
Yeah,
so, yeah, if anyone gets a minute, please do fill that in, because otherwise I might teach you to suck eggs later on. So as a bit of a background, so the recent tender that we've issued was our 8th one. So we started in June 2018. That's when we issued our first expression of interest. So since then we published 70 constraint management zones with a total of just over 500 megawatts of requirements. So they started off quite small, and we've been ramping things up ever since, because when we first started, we didn't have that many problems on our network, to be honest. So as we move on, then we're getting more and more opportunities for flexibility in ways that we can use it on our network. So in terms of what are flexible services, so it's a technique used to help DNOs to manage network constraints by consumers using more or less electricity when instructed in return for a payment. So it's quite a simple idea if we keep it that way, but we can always make it more complicated, and I'm sure we will later on. But essentially it is just the term given to the act of reducing or increasing consumption following receipt of a signal to help us manage network issues. So in terms of the benefits of flexibility, one of the main ones is the cost savings. So by managing constraints and avoiding reinforcement, we're able to reduce our customers' bills. And avoiding this reinforcement also reduces our carbon impact and the disruption which is seen by customers by utilising our existing assets instead of having to install new ones. So this can support local businesses, community groups, and generally the country as we adopt more low carbon technologies, as we're asking customers to provide energy instead of large power stations in more of that traditional top-down approach of generation and distribution. So in terms of why now, of why since June 2018 has this really started taking off? A lot of it is to do with the changing energy landscape, but the forecasted increase in low carbon technologies over the next few years means that we're going to experience huge increases in demand on the network, which require us to reinforce many of our existing assets. So that does come at an increased cost to customers, as a proportion of that reinforcement cost is passed on to consumers directly through their electricity bills. So we've already seen quite a large increase in the number of low carbon technologies, especially as now that's what's making it into more of a distribution system operation, because we've got so many customers now that are installing, solar panels, small batteries, and contributing to electricity generation as well on a small scale. So this is a nice diagram to help describe that changing energy landscape. But flexibility really does play a crucial role in our transition to DSO, which is a distribution system operation, as it's changing at such a rapid rate as we move from that kind of top-down model of large-scale generation. But that's why we want to continue to engage with you at these working groups to protect your interests and ensure that all future opportunities remain intact, and we have chances for you to engage more with this energy landscape as people are participants rather than just users. So in terms of the different types of flexibility that we have, we've got these 4 key active power products. So sustain, secure, dynamic and restore. So all very catchy names. And this is just a quick table that explains the key parameters of them. So I'm going to go into them in a bit more detail in these next slides. So we have sustain. So this is a pre-fault product that is scheduled in advance to provide additional capacity and capability to the network. So a key example of this could be where we've got huge increases in demand and they're over long periods of time. So instead of being a kind of peak lopping response, we need a more continuous capacity provision. So the reinforcement alternative might be that we have to build a new primary substation to cope with that demand. So in comparison, we've got secure. So this is also a pre-fault product which is scheduled in advance, but instead this one is used to manage peak loading and planned outage constraints. So that's usually characterised by those shorter time scales that help us with the peak periods. So it's more like winter between 4 till 7 PM when everyone goes home and puts the telly and the kettle on. So dynamic is the third one. So this is a post-fault product that helps us manage unplanned events on the network and keeps the remaining demand within the ratings of the assets. So as we don't know when these events are going to occur, it has a shorter response time and usually has higher utilisation prices, as the availability window might be for the period of time in which we know that the demand might exceed the rating of the asset, but it only becomes a problem once a fault has actually occurred. So these services just help us manage those unplanned events. And then again, restore, so quite similar to the dynamic, so they're all a little bit similar but have some slight variances. So this is a post-fault product, but instead it helps us manage complete loss of supplies instead of dynamic, where there is still some capacity available from the existing assets. So this is again unplanned and usually characterised by utilisation only contracts. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into our 4 key products, and we'll make the next section on our current requirements make sense. So I'm going to hand over to Kate now just to talk about our current requirements.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I'm going to be going through our Spring 2021 tender. Before I jump into that, I'm just going to do a quick roundup of some of our recent tenders. So our Autumn 2020 tender has concluded. We're currently in the process of finalising the contracts, and those contracts start in 2023. Once those contracts are finalised with the successful bidders, information will be available to view on our website, and that should be in early May. So you can find the information on our Autumn 2020 tender on our website, and it's in the previous requirements section if you'd like to find out more about that. Our Spring 2021 tender is now live. So this went live on the 29th of March, and we're really excited because it's our largest tender to date by a long mile. So we have almost double the amount of sites as our Autumn 2020 tender. So yeah, I'll be going through that in more detail in a moment, but just a quick overview. There's 35 zones, and we're looking for 339 megawatts of capacity. And this tender is open from March 29th until July 21st this year. And then also, I don't know if anyone's familiar with our Rio ED2 forecast, but towards the end of last year, we asked flexibility providers to express an interest in providing us with flexibility from 2023 to 28. And this was to identify both current and future levels of flexibility for our network. So next year, we'll be releasing these sites as part of our tenders next year. So keep an eye out for those. But just jumping into our current requirements. So this is our Spring 2021 tender that's live. And this is a list of all 35 locations where we're seeking flexible services in the Northwest. If you'd like to view these on a map, you can view them on our website, on our flexibility map, and they're also available on Picclo Flex. So both of those have a flexibility map to view them all on. So this is the second time that we've used Picclo Flex to procure flexibility. So yeah, we're excited to see how that goes again, and hopefully that will help everyone to participate as well. So here is a summary of our requirements. So we're asking flex providers to deliver flexibility from October this year. In the first year, we're asking for 159 megawatts of capacity, and that will increase to 180 megawatts in the second year. And as you can see, there is a mixture of all 4 response types, which Lois just explained. So we're looking for sustain, secure, dynamic, and restore responses. So all of the requirements are published on an interactive map on our website. If you'd like to take a closer look, we also have indications of over 30 ED2 sites. Those are the grey icons on our map, and then the navy icons are our current requirements. And then if you haven't used our map before, just to give you a quick little demo of what you'd have to do, on our map there's the different icons. All you have to do is click on them, and that will open up a box on the left hand side. This will display all of the information of each site requirement, and it, you know, for example, response type, delivery start date, and the maximum amount of capacity required. You can also view this information on Picclo, but if you're on our website, it's handy to have it there as well. And it's available on these 3 pages on our website. So there's some handy links there for you as well. So the competition areas for this tender went live on Picclo on the 29th of March. We also publish all of the information on our website. Not all of the information is available on Picclo, so we really encourage you to take a look at our website just to make sure you have all of the information you need. So just to go through our tender documents in a bit more detail, you'll see a section on our Spring 2021 requirements page that contains all the relevant documents to participate in our tender. To run through them all, this includes our invitation to tender terms and conditions. So that's just the T's and C's of the procurement process. Next up, there's the standard flexibility agreement, which is the latest version of the template contract. You'll sign this if your bid is successful. And this contract is used by all DNOs. There's the technical specification document, which outlines the technical requirements that an asset needs to provide us with flexible services. There's the summary site requirements, which details all of the 35 sites, outlines how much capacity each site will require and when, and also what our estimated utilisation is. So you can also view those details on Picclo and on our flexibility map, but we just thought it would be useful to have all that information available in a table format altogether to view. There's the half-hourly requirements spreadsheet. So this we started publishing last year, and this is helpful. You can have a look and see how the requirements for sustained, secure and dynamic responses ramp up each year. So next up, this is quite an exciting one. This is our new online pre-qualification questionnaire. We created this this year, so this is the first time we're using it. And this should make it much easier for you to complete and send back to us, because previously it was a Word document that you had to download, fill out and email back. So now it should be a lot easier, but we'll go through that in a bit more detail in the next few slides. And then finally, there's the postcode checker. So you can easily check if your asset falls within one of our zones. And this is only available on our website. So that's a quick way of checking if you can participate. So just a couple of updates on our procurement process for this tender. We're always looking at ways to improve the process to make it easier to participate. So a couple of new features include ceiling prices. You know, this was on the back of some feedback we received at our last webinar to publish ceiling prices. So this is now part of our tender documentation. You can find it on our Spring 2021 page in our appendices. So that should be really useful for you just to help at the bidding stage. So it should give you an indication of what we've determined to be an economical cost to procure flexible services, rather than going down the traditional network reinforcement route. So we've done this using the Common Evaluation Methodology and Tool, so the new CEM tool. And this tool is being adopted by all DNOs this year as well. So next up, we've got the new pre-qualification questionnaire that I just touched on. So again, this will just simplify this part of the process. It should save you a lot of time, and the questions are really straightforward, and there are tips on the form as to what information we're looking for from each question. You can also upload documents on that form, so that should make that part easy as well. And I'll just go to the next slide to show you what it looks like. So this is what the new form on our website looks like. And if you're considering taking part, we do really stress that you need to accurately complete this form, fill in every question with the correct information, because if we don't receive that information by the 2nd of July, you won't be able to participate. If you're unsure of anything, please go and have a look in the meantime, because it is available on our website now, so you can always have a look, have a read through the questions. And if you are unsure of anything, we also now offer one-to-one surgery appointments, so you can book those on our website. There's a link to book there on the slide as well. So we can always run through any aspect of the process with you. In order to fill this out and submit it, you will firstly have to have registered onto our dynamic purchasing system on Picclo. So that's the DPS on Picclo, which is the commercial registration part of the process. And then we just ask that you upload your assets on Picclo. And then the third step is filling out the PQQ. So this is just a handy timeline for your diaries. It contains some key dates for this tender. So you can sign up to the dynamic purchasing system on Picclo up to 12 months before the tender goes live. But if you have previously signed up and it was more than 12 months ago, you will need to re-register. So once you've registered onto the DPS, you can upload your assets. And then also you can take part in the tender when it goes live. So our tender went live on the 29th of March. So it's open for anyone who would like to submit a PQQ. We've also extended the deadline this year to the 2nd of July, just to allow everyone sufficient time to complete their application. And also it gives a bit more time if you did want to book in for a surgery appointment, or if you have any questions or are unsure of anything, you've got loads of time to get in touch. So bidding then, the tender closes on the 2nd of July, and then bidding opens on the 19th of July. It then closes on 30th of July. In the meantime, you can go back into Picclo and edit your bid before it's finally submitted, so you have some time to change your mind. We then have about a month where we'll review those bids and hopefully enter into negotiations to award a contract in August. So this is just a participant checklist. After running through all of the different steps with you, this is a handy checklist if you're looking to take part. So first you need to sign up to the DPS on Picclo, register your assets, complete the PQQ on our website, and finally submit a bid on Picclo. So we did make those few changes on our current requirements page on our website, but we've also published a few reports and documents over the past 6 months which you might be interested in. Our latest year in review report outlines how we've honoured our commitment to the Energy Network Association's 6 steps for delivering flexibility services. This ensures that all DNOs champion a level playing field, helping customers understand the methodologies and procurement processes. We've also published our first edition of the Distribution Flexibility Procurement Statement. This came about following the government's Clean Energy for All Europeans package at the end of last year. We'll take a closer look at this later on in the webinar if anyone's interested. So another section in the flexibility area of our website is understanding flexible services. So we've updated a good few documents in this section, including the glossary. So we have a much more extensive list of flexible services terms now. We've also updated the standard flexibility agreement. This is now the latest version, which is 1.2. The technical specification document is now also the latest version used for this tender, and we've added the new common evaluation methodology and tool, which is used to evaluate flexibility. And as I mentioned earlier, there's also a request a surgery appointment form. So you can use this form to book a one-to-one appointment with a member of our team to discuss any aspect of providing flexibility. So if you're unsure of anything at all to do with flexibility, please do fill in that form and get in touch, and we can set up a meeting. So that's everything I'm going to go through with you today. I'm going to hand you back to Lois, and Lois is going to run through the Picclo Flex platform and the Flexible Power Portal.
Hi everyone. So in terms of the Picclo, sorry, Kate, thank you. So we are using Picclo again for this tender round. So this will be our second tender using the DPS system, and so hopefully a few of you are already familiar. So an overview of Picclo, it's the UK's current leading marketplace for DSO flexibility procurement, with a few other DNOs signed up as well. So it provides that market visibility and transparency, and it has the intention of just streamlining the process for flexibility procurement. So a lot of feedback that we've had over the years is that providers would like us to all use consistent platforms for these things, just so they don't have to learn how to use 6 different portals for putting all their information into. So we do continue to feed back any comments or issues to Picclo directly from engagement with yourselves in terms of how to improve the process. So if anyone does have any feedback, then please do let us know, especially if you participated in one of our previous tender rounds, if there's anything that you didn't like about it or how we could make that better. So the platform itself, so we've got a link to it on here, and just wanted to touch on a few of the new features within the platform for this tender. So one of them is a new confirmation process. So that's where you confirm which assets you want to put forward in order to bid with. So this can help save both of us time, really, as often assets are registered on the platform, just so you can see what's out there, to check whether there are any requirements within the zone that you have an asset. But then often it was just that initial check and didn't actually want to put them through for bidding. So we end up evaluating a lot of assets which didn't actually intend to go through to that stage. And there's a lot of fields within Picclo when you're registering your asset, so it means that you don't have to fill in all of those bits unless you actually wanted to put it forward for participation in the tender. So hopefully that should make things a bit more streamlined and a bit more coordinated. And then the information that you then put for registering your asset, that's what we use against our PQQ process. So the PQQ touches on some of the technical aspects which aren't covered under Picclo, that we just have to check internally to make sure that by providing this response, you're not going to cause any other issues on our network. And it looks at things like development timelines and things like that. So if you do need any help with Picclo, we are here to help, but also there's an email address for support at Picclo as well. So they're very helpful, always on the end of the phone in case you need anything. So the next bit is just going to touch on flexible power. So we've recently announced our intention to join the Flexible Power collaboration along with 4 other DNOs. So SSEN, SPNG Networks, Northern Power Grid have already joined up with WPD, who originally created the platform. So again, this came from feedback from many of you that's been centred around the simplicity and visibility of information. And so this is just another way in which we're simplifying our approach so that if you're participating across multiple regions, so you've got assets all over the UK, you don't have to learn how to use 5 different systems. So there's ongoing developments with the platform. and everything's being done in collaboration, so that we're all learning from each other and everything's done using best practice from the industry. So the flexible power platform itself has a bit of a self-service element. So this is where you can declare your availability on a weekly basis, which we can then accept or reject. So you can vary the amount of capacity you can make available each week, depending on external factors. So, the time of year or temperature or something like that. And the provider portal also allows you to view all of the service information in one place. So as mentioned before, if you're providing services to multiple DNOs across the UK, then you can view all of your scheduled services and invoices in one place, which just makes life a lot easier, really. And as this is a collaboration, so we're constantly learning from each other and pushing each other to improve, and are currently developing a timeline for future improvements. So thinking about when we can implement all of these over the next few years. So the next section, we're just going to touch on some key industry updates, because this does feature quite heavily within our approach to flexibility as well. So as much as we gauge feedback from yourselves, such as sessions like this, we're also active participants in the Open Networks project, which has got a dedicated flexibility work stream. So we follow that really closely, and any best practice identified through those channels we also implement back into our processes. But the first bit we're going to touch on here is the new distribution flexibility procurement statement. So following the Clean Energy Package implementation earlier this year, we've had a new condition added to our electricity distribution licence. So this is directly related to the procurement and use of distribution flexibility services. We published this report at the end of March, and we'll be doing so every year going forwards. So this is the procurement statement, which sets out our intentions for procuring flexibility over the next regulatory year. So it's very much a looking forward report. It covers things like engagement, contracts and processes. So if you are new to flexibility, then this can be a really useful resource to get that real kind of summary on a page of what we're intending to do this year and how we're going to do it. So in May 2022, this will be supplemented by a procurement report, which is going to be the looking back section of it. So this then details what we procured over the course of the year and what was dispatched and prices that were paid, contract links, things like that. So that's then used as a comparative piece against the procurement statement to say, this is what we intended to do, and at the end of the year, this is what we actually did. So as we've just published, this is the intention for the upcoming year. You can view that available on our website, but the report about everything that's been done, that won't be available until next year now. So we've had a full year to capture that data and measure ourselves against. So all DNOs should now be publishing these, as it's added to everyone's licence conditions. But we've made ours publicly available on the website. So there's a link in here, and you can get to it from our main Flexible Services homepage as well. So we've got some additional appendices in there, and we've got our map as well. So please do have a look, and if you have any feedback on the statement and how it could be more useful, then please do let us know, because of them are looking for feedback on this as well to help shape the approach of these in the future. Next up, so we've got the Open Networks project. So in 2021, we've got 9 work streams this year. So the project in total looks at to change how the networks operate to facilitate the transition to smart, flexible energy systems. So this sees DNOs take a more active role in managing their networks, so allowing us to address periods of high and low demand and power outages efficiently and things like that. So we've been doing this for quite a few years now, but this year there's been quite a key focus on information provision and coordination. So last year was heavily focused on standardisation. So we had some key work streams looking at the common contracts, common parameters for different services and procurement processes, and the common evaluation methodology tool. So quite a few of those have made it through into this year as well, as we continue to make some refinements. But I'll touch on these in the next few slides. So I've got some kind of key takeouts for this. So first one is the product 3 from last year. So that was looking at consistent parameters for the active power services. So I thought it was worth mentioning, as it directly benefits anyone that wants to participate in flexibility at the moment. So this implemented consistent parameters for the 4 active power products that we've got here, and it also reduced the minimum criteria for participation for both directly contracted and aggregated resources down to 50 kilowatts. So we did mention this in one of our last sessions, but it is a really good point to take away, because previously values were set at 100 kilowatts for directly contracted and 200 kilowatts for aggregated resources. So what we've done is we've reduced both of those levels down to 50, and we've meant that they're both the same. So we no longer have differing values for directly contracted or aggregated resources, as we are seeing a large increase in residential flexibility through aggregators, and we want to make sure that the door's left as wide open as it can be, really. So we were the first DNO to utilise these standard parameters in our autumn 2020 tender, and the benefits are that dynamic will be used in the same way by DNOs whether you're in the north, south, east or west. So it again just makes participation that little bit easier, because you know what to expect and it should all be operated in the same way. So the next key bit is, so it's product 1, so that was looking at the common evaluation methodology. So this was completed at the end of last year. So it's a cost benefit analysis tool for measuring the benefits of flexibility against conventional solutions. So this was developed with all the networks. We had input from Ofgem as well, and it was built on the Ofgem cost benefit analysis model. So we're using those kind of a lot of the fixed values and approaches that have been approved by Ofgem as the kind of starting blocks for that. The other inputs look at losses, CIs and CMLs, which are customer interruptions or impact on loss of supplies, and network losses as well. So key input to that is our DFES scenarios. So that's our distribution future electricity scenarios, which is our forecasts. So we've got 5 different scenarios which show how there are different pathways in which demand could move toward, looking at a lot of different scenarios and uptakes of things like low carbon technologies. So we've used this tool for the evaluation of our autumn tender, but we've also used it in the calculation of ceiling prices for the current spring tender. So we are striving to be transparent in our decision making. So the tool is available on our website and on the ENAs. So if you do like a spreadsheet, I'd encourage you to have a look, but be warned, it does take you a little bit of time to get your head around. So we will be publishing the full CBAs from our autumn tender on the website in the next few weeks, now that we've concluded that tender round. But the key bit that I wanted to highlight from this is that because we've used it to calculate our ceiling prices for our current tender, there's you've got that guarantee that whatever price you submit is going to be measured against that ceiling price. So we're being consistent throughout, so there's no moving goalposts here. And then everything again will be published on the website following the conclusion of the tender. Next bit, so we're looking at procurement processes within this product. So we continue to look at improving these processes. So we're currently working on aligning the procurement windows with the ESO. So this is to create a more structured marketplace, and are looking at the timing of these throughout the year. DNOs currently issue tenders in autumn and spring, like us. This is because it's in line with other regulatory reports and the production of our annual forecast and the DFES report. But if you do have any feedback on the timing of windows, please do let us know. So this will be a key focus of the consultation that's run by the ENA in July and over the summer months. So we will be going out for this, but if you have any additional feedback on the timing of windows and what would be most beneficial, then please do let us know. the standard flexibility agreement, so this does feel like it's been going on for a while now. So we've now moved into version 1.2. So that was approved for publication about a month ago. So this contains some further improvements in terminology for aggregated portfolios and some revised clauses based on feedback through the open networks over the last year or so. So work this year is going to be focused on version 2 of the agreement, which is being developed with the ESO, so we can follow from product 2 and those procurement processes and help to drive further consistency across transmission and distribution, and again making it easier for assets at all voltage levels to get involved in flexibility of some kind. So again, that will be a key focus of the consultation later this year. So if, just in case anyone hasn't had enough of consultations, please do take a look at that. So we're also looking at baselining principles. So there was a huge piece of work done on this last year. So that was with DNVGL. So working on this on behalf of the networks. So the idea was to develop some consistent baselining methodologies. So this work concluded in early 2021, and so throughout this year we will now be looking at implementing these standard principles. So these are going to be incorporated into the Flexible Power portal, which we will be using for dispatch and settlement. So it will be embedded within processes via that portal route. And then finally, this is a bit of a mishmash. I've put a few of them together. So there's 4 products this year that are focused on conflict management and connections, so especially information relating to curtailment. So the aim of the products is to improve the information provided to flexibly connected customers regarding their curtailment and their contractual obligations. So this is to make sure that no one is excluded from participating in either transmission or distribution flexibility markets, and to ensure that there are rules in place for managing these resources so that both networks are unharmed, if you like. So the information that you may receive from us relating to how much you're going to be curtailed might put you off from participating in a market because you think that you might not be available during that time, or there might be contractual clauses that prevent you from doing so. So there's I say 4 products which are looking at this year. So a lot of work is going into that to make sure that anyone that wants to can participate. So a very busy year in the open networks, always is. But now we'll move on to something a little bit nicer, which is our ED2 requirements. So as Kate touched on at the start, so I'll just have a quick recap. We issued an expression of interest for our ED2 requirements back in November. So this was for all of our grid and primary sites. So although the deadline was in February, because we had to use this information to inform our ED2 business planning activities, but the survey is still open and it asks questions such as, you know, what are your preferred contract lengths? What types of resources would you like to connect? What kind of payment structures would be most beneficial? So we do encourage you to fill this in because it will still be taken into consideration to help us shape our approach in the future. So you can also register your asset on our website. So that's a really good function that we have. So if you register there, then when we keep that on a log, so whenever we have a requirement within that area, we can then directly notify you. So just in case you didn't like all the emails that you get from us every few months, you can get ones that are specifically tailored to you and your asset if you have one in a specific location. But all of our requirements as well, we have kept available on our flexibility map, so the interactive one that's got the grey icons. So especially if you're thinking of developing an asset for using in flexibility markets, then this is the best forward view that we can provide. So it tells you what we think our requirements are all the way out to 2028. So it really does give that good signpost of where we think things are moving to. In terms of our draft business plan, so as I say, the information from that ED2 consultation went into the production of this business plan. So an early draft is now available for consultation. So they want responses by the 3rd of May, and if you're not sick of webinars by now, there's also a session tomorrow afternoon, which is free to join, which will provide some more information on this. So it's the Powering Up the Northwest, Our Future plan, which should be quite an interesting event. But there'll be lots of questions. Everything's invited from attendees, so that will be submitted to Ofgem. So any key bits of feedback that you have, that will be taken into consideration at a high level. So again, please do have a look. But as a summary, our business plan details our proposed investments in assets and capacity, and it details our commitments to reduce power cuts, support those in fuel poverty and increase our network's resilience, all while keeping customers' bills as low as possible. So it's a challenging one, but good to set yourself a challenge. If you do have any specific questions, you can get in contact with us via email. So we've got a dedicated mailbox. Alternatively, we've got a feedback form on our website, or you can email us and ask one of our one-to-one surgery appointments that Kate touched on earlier. So that's where we can sit down one-to-one and go through any part of the process that you need some more help on, and we're happy to answer any questions at all. So I'm guessing you're all signed up to our distribution list. That's probably how you got here in the first place. But if not, and please do send out to your colleagues to help raise awareness of some of our opportunities. So we do these webinars biannually at the moment, so it's in line with the publication of each of our new requirements so that we can talk through any key updates or changes to the process. So if there's anything that you would like to see within the next one, or areas that you'd like us to focus on, please do put that into the feedback as well, because we want to make these as useful as possible. But don't forget as well, we will be emailing out the slides to everyone, and the recording of this webinar will be made available on our website, so you can watch back at any time.